Tēnā koutou katoa, welcome into the breakdown. What a weekend. A weekend that sent, well, almost every series to a decider, didn't it? 24 hours after we've had time to digest that historic moment from Ireland. 117 years in the making. They come to New Zealand and get their first ever victory. And, well, this panel, they can't wait to rip into this. Jeff Wilson is almost ready.
Look at him.
We've got Tokoro's finest and the sole Irishman that's very happy, Isaac Boss.
Well, I've got sore cheeks from still smiling.
Great to have you on the programme, and of course a man that needs no introduction, Stephen Bates as well. After the last 24 hours, we'll start off with you. How are you feeling?
Oh, geez, a bit tired actually. I was down there in Dunedin and getting out. I did get to bed nice and early, let them celebrate, but that was magnificent. Yeah, pretty good. So great occasion, great game, and yeah, like I said, you haven't stopped smiling.
Clearly, it wasn't a great game. It clearly wasn't a great game because, bottom line, one team had to play with 14 men, then 13 men. Credit where credit is due, and you have to do it. And we knew the dangers, Batesy, of this Ireland team coming on our shores, and now we've got one of the great test weeks to look forward to. Sky Stadium in Wellington, we've got a decider, not just a decider here. We've got a decider in South Africa, we've got a decider in Australia, and we've got a decider in South America. So bottom line, if you love rugby, next weekend is something to behold and really celebrate, Batesy.
And if you're a neutral, isn't it what you want? You watch any sport you watch, and we're watching rugby at the moment. If you want a contest, and what you do over the 4 series there, you got a contest, you got a decider in every single one. So you know, if you want to promote the game of rugby, it's better to promote a series that is 1-1 rather than 2-0. So we've got 4 great games coming up next weekend and everything to play for.
But what do Ireland do after the game? Look, how did they approach this? Because bottom line, when you create history, and that's what they've done. But I got the sense when Jonathan Sexton did his interview after the game, the job's not done. That was the first job, right? But the real history is winning the series. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I totally see that. They would have celebrated because they deserve to celebrate. They deserve to have their pint.
Well, they do it well.
And a couple of whiskies maybe. Yeah. Because that was brilliant. And then if they'd won the first match and lost this one, momentum's changed now. They've got momentum. All the pressure's on the All Blacks going into Wellington. It's just changed the whole perspective of it. And basically, there's no neutrals here. Yeah. You know that.
I'll just say, in general, I'll just say one thing I picked up from that Johnny Sexton interview. He was very deliberate in saying, when it was 15 on 15, we were winning.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So he didn't miss his mark. He was direct in what he was saying. So don't forget that. When it was 15 on 15, we were winning. And that's what I picked up from that interview.
When we were 15 on 15 the week before, though, we only needed 15 minutes to take the game away from them. So be very, very careful what you asked for. And bottom line, in the first 40 minutes where they had the advantage, they should have put the game away. And they didn't. To let the All Blacks get themselves back into the game just before half-time could have come back and hurt them. They proved, though, they're a quality side. And they did it in the second half. In the first 10 minutes, you felt as though they took the game away from the All Blacks. But they needed to do that because the All Blacks got a lift. They showed some character, but they put themselves in a difficult position. And Ireland did what England couldn't do to Australia. They came back and proved they're an outstanding team.
And with that, I actually think their tactics changed a little bit in the second half, which wasn't for the benefit. They went to the kicking game a little bit more that they hadn't used. I thought they played a little bit safe when they played a lot more fast, attacking pace rugby up until that. So I think, you know, that was maybe just a bit of changed focus. But if you go back to Test 1, those 15 minutes was 5 mistakes from the Irish team that they don't make any other game of the year. And they got them all out of the way there. And, you know, they were a lot more clinical in the weekends. They did what they needed to do. And the All Blacks, 2 tries, last minute of the first half, last minute of the second half. So you can't tell me that any other time in that game that the All Blacks were actually in it.
We're absolutely going to celebrate Ireland, and deservedly so today. But as for the All Blacks, it's funny that in 1 week the pendulum completely shifts. The pressure is on them, Jeff. That was the biggest home defeat in 29 years. Are you concerned? Are you worried? As JK keeps saying, 15 months out from the Rugby World Cup.
You have to be concerned, but the context of the Test match changed the moment Angus Ta'avao was red-carded. So when you start thinking about what the All Blacks were having to face through the course and the remainder of that series, and that's 80 minutes, it was going to be difficult for them to get over the top of a team that is clearly world-class. That's what this side are. Disciplined on defence, incredibly accurate, and when you're a man down, it takes its toll, and they just created more and more pressure, Batesy. They did what they're very, very good at. Look, the red card, we'll talk about this in a moment, and the impact on the game. But we've seen this happen before. And it happened in a Lions series when we lost Sonny Bill Williams in the second Test match. So you can't say it was a fair fight because they didn't play 15 on 15. But, to your point, both Test matches, Ireland have shown that they are very, very good. I'll keep going back. They show quality and are good enough to score points against the All Blacks, and that puts you under pressure.
I 100% agree with you. The game changed when Tarvell got sent off. I 100% agree with that. But in saying that, again, and we've got to give credit to the Irish, because at half-time, I was sitting at home with my two sons, and all three of us, All Blacks are going to come back and win this. Just because they had all the momentum. The Irish couldn't put them away. They couldn't put them away, but they didn't. And at 15 on 14, it doesn't matter. You still got to win. And Aussie showed last week, you can beat a team with 14 men. So you've got to give credit for how good they were.
So which one of those boys are going to be wearing a green shirt next week?
Well, I tell you what, the young fella got a bit bored. I don't think it'll be him, because the young fella got a bit bored and fell asleep in the second half. So I don't think it's him.
The price of potatoes are going up now, you know that, inflation. So those chips at McDonald's are going to cost a lot more, mate.
On the red card, Ardie Savea obviously wasn't able to play for 40 minutes of that match. What sort of an impact did that have? And can anyone explain what was actually going on at that time? There seemed to be so much confusion.
Look, I think everyone was confused. The fact, and I think it got really confusing the moment the All Blacks ran 3 players back onto the field. And reality is that what should have happened here is that Dalton Papali'i should have been the player who remained off, because he was replaced by Angus Ta'avao, who got the red card. That's the information I've been given, and Ardie Savea should have been able to remain on the field. Now, the one thing he would have brought is experience and leadership. And he is, to be fair, one of the form All Blacks over the last 18 months. And they may have needed that deep into the game. But I think there are other areas the All Blacks will be concerned. The scrum didn't deliver like it delivered the week before. It got hurt. Remembering, though, we didn't have a reserve tight head prop to go to. He was off the field. So Ofa Tuangafasi had to do a big shift after his 10 minutes in the bin. The other thing is we just didn't cherish possession. We made far too many errors, and our ability to hold on and look after the high kicks hurt us. Everyone that went up, Ireland either got it back or the All Blacks made an error. You make those mistakes against a good side, they'll hurt you.
Isaac, you're a neutral voice here. Do you look at individual players, or do you look at the coaches?
He's not neutral.
He's not neutral. He's
Jeff's thumbs up. Irish is the... sorry, Bossy's the other way. I'm the neutral here, Kirstie.
Do we have the right players and the right coaches in place?
Oh, look, it's not a... I don't think it's a coaching thing, a playing thing. It's purely about that 80 minutes. And this happens in high intensity international rugby. It can go either way, and you've got to be able to adapt. And I don't think they adapt well. And I go back again, like you said, the mistakes, the pressure was all on them. And, you know, the score probably actually flatters the All Blacks. Even that Bodie try, you know?
Yeah, I agree entirely.
Is that a planned move?
That's not a planned move. It's not a planned move.
I just thought that when that happened, I thought this is going to go against us again, and it's not going to be the day for the green. But look, I think they were put under the pressure. All that they actually created the opportunities to put themselves in positions where they could get like that, you know. And going back to those cards, it doesn't really matter. You had 15 players on the field. That's an officials. They let 3 people go back on for 15. It should never have been that.
I don't want to sound like a cheerleader to the Irish here, but what I did really enjoy about the Irish is in Test 1, the All Black threw a lot of C balls to their third runner and C hooks and something like that. That caught the Irish out. They identified it and they were nullified that, and then they got up and they turned that pill over because that guy doesn't have an outside cleaner. What the teams in the Northern Hemisphere do have over us is they are constantly thrown at them every week through their club rugby, through their Six Nations, teams that play different structures. The All Blacks threw a different structure at them in Test 1. It caught them out and they adjusted very, very quickly. And their defensive effort was 1,000,000 times better.
And you're 100% right. The 2 tries the All Blacks did score. It was hard work, incredibly difficult. They just don't miss defensively either. And we didn't stress them defensively. I'm still a little bit disappointed. At no point in either Test match have we shown an inkling to go through the middle collectively. If you go to the edges and you try and play with width, the Irish defence is just too accurate, is too well disciplined, and they don't miss. Look, the first line break that led to the try was off a missed tackle. The All Blacks missed some critical tackles. Discipline let the All Blacks down. We presented Ireland with plenty of opportunities, and they're able to take those. The interesting part now is the All Blacks will have some critical players available for the next weekend. David Havili will be back on deck. Sam Whitelock, it looks as though he's going to be back on deck. That makes up a difference in terms of what we'll have in our forward pack, but they'll need some answers, particularly in the front row for the scrum. And I look at the 3 things that put us under pressure. The scrum hurt us. Our ability to negate the high ball and our error rate from pressure. That's what South Africa's done to us in the past. It's what England's done to us in the past. Those are the areas that the All Blacks have continued to struggle with. We didn't struggle with them in Auckland, but Ireland fronted up once again. And that's a challenge.
Well, what's it like in the All Blacks environment after a result like that, Jeff?
Oh, it's incredibly challenging, incredibly challenging. I'm looking forward to hearing inside the All Blacks when you are faced with the adversity they're going to face this week.